that it is so ordered that we, who sit here, and none others, must now find counsel for the peril of the world. Now, therefore, things shall be openly spoken that have been hidden for all but a few until this day. At first, so that all may understand what is the peril. The tale of the ring shall be told from the beginning even to this present. And I will begin that tale, though others shall end it. Then all listened while Elrond in his clear voice spoke of Sauron and the Rings of Power, and their forging in the Second Age of the world long ago. A part of his tale was known to some there, but the full tale to none, and many eyes were turned to Elrond in fear and wonder as he told of the elven smiths of Eregion and their friendship with Moria, and their eagerness for knowledge by which Sauron ensnared them. For in that time he was not yet evil to behold, and they received his aid and grew mighty in craft. Whereas he learned all their secrets, and betrayed them, and forged secretly in the Mountain of Fire the One Ring, to be their master. But Celebrimor was aware of him, and hid the three which he had made, and there was war. And the land was laid waste, and the gate of Moria was shut. Then through all the years that followed he traced the ring, but since that history is also recounted, even as Elrond himself set it down in his books of lore, it is not here recalled. For it is a long tale, full of deeds great and terrible, and briefly though Elrond spoke, the sun rode up the sky, and the morning was passing ere he ceased. Of Númenor he spoke, its glory and its fall, and the return of the kings of men to Middle-earth, out of the deeps of the sea, borne upon the wings of storm. Then Elendil the Tall and his mighty sons, Isildur and Anarion, became great lords, and the north realm they made in Arnor, and the south realm in Gondor above the mountains of Anduin. But Sauron of Mordor assailed them, and they made the last alliance of elves and men, and the host of Gil-galad and Elendil were mustered in Arnor. Thereupon Elrond paused a while and sighed. I remember well the splendor of their banners, he said. It recalled to me the glory of the elder days, and the host of Beleriand. So many great princes and captains were assembled, and yet not so many, not so fair as when Thangorodrim was broken. And the elves deemed that evil was ended forever, and it was not so.
You remember?
Said Frodo, speaking his thought aloud in his astonishment.
But I thought...
He stammered as Elrond turned towards him.
I thought that the fall of Gil-galad was a long age ago.
So it was indeed, answered Elrond gravely. But my memory reaches back even to the elder days. Eärendil was my sire, who was born in Gondolin before its fall, and my mother was Elwig, daughter of Dior, son of Luthien of Doriath. I have seen 3 ages in the west of the world, and many defeats, and many fruitless victories. I was the herald of Gil-galad, and marched with his host. I was at the battle of Dargolan before the Black Gate of Mordor, where we had the mastery. For the spear of Gil-galad and the sword of Elendil, Aeglos and Narsil, none could withstand. I beheld the last combat on the slopes of Orodruin, where Gil-galad died and Elendil fell, and Narsil broke beneath him. But Sauron himself was overthrown, and Isildur cut the ring from his hand and the hilt shard of his father's sword, and took it for his own. At this the stranger Boromir broke in. "So this is what became of the ring!" he cried. "If ever such a tale was told in the south, it has long been forgotten. I have heard of the great ring of him that we do not name, but we believe that it perished from the world in ruin of its first realm. Isildur took it." "That is tidings indeed." "Alas, yes," said Elrond. "Isildur took it, as should not have been. It should have been cast then into Orodruin's fire nigh at hand, where it was made. But few marked what Isildur did. He alone stood by his father in that last mortal conquest. By Gil-galad only Círdan stood, and I. But Isildur would not listen to our counsel. "This I will have as a were-guild for my father and my brother," he said, and therefore, whether we would or no, he took it to treasure it. But soon he was betrayed by it to his death, and so it is named in the north Isildur's Bane. Yet death maybe was better than what else might have befallen him. Only to the north did these tidings come, and only to a few. Small wonder it is that you have not heard them, Boromir. From the ruin of the Gladden Fields where Isildur perished, 3 men only came ever back over the mountains after long wandering. One of these was Ohtar, the esquire of Isildur, who bore the shards of the sword of Elendil, and he brought them to Valandil, the heir of Isildur, who being but a child had remained here in Rivendell. But Narsil was broken and its light extinguished, and it has not yet been forged again. Fruitless did I call the victory of the last alliance? Not wholly so. Yet it did not achieve its end. Sauron was diminished but not destroyed. His ring was lost but not unmade. The Dark Tower was broken, but its foundations were not removed, for they were made with the power of the ring. And while it remains, they will endure. Many elves and many mighty men and many of their friends had perished in the war. Anarion was slain, and Isildur was slain, and Gil-galad and Elendil were no more. Never again shall there be any such league of elves and men, for men multiply, and the firstborn decrease, and the 2 kindreds were estranged, and ever since that day the race of Númenor has decayed, and the span of their years has lessened. In the north, after the war and the slaughter of the Gladden Fields, the men of Westerness were diminished, and their city of Anúminas beside Lake Evendim fell into ruin. And the heirs of Valandil removed and dwelt at Fornost on the 9 North Downs. And that now too is desolate. Men call it Dead Men's Dyke, and they fear to tread there, for the folk of Arnor dwindled, and their foes devoured them. And their lordship passed, leaving only green mounds in the grassy hills. Built and strong places, and havens of many ships, and the winged crown of the kings of men was held in awe by folk of many tongues. Their chief city was Osgiliath, citadel of the stars, through the midst of which the river flowed. And Minas Ithil they built, tower of the rising moon, eastward upon a shoulder of the mountains of shadow, and westward at the feet of the white mountains. Minas Anor they made, tower of the setting sun. There in the courts of the king grew a white tree, from the seed of that tree which Isildur brought over the deep waters, and the seed of that tree before came from Erisea, and before that out of the uttermost west in the day before days when the world was young. But the wearing of the swift years of Middle-earth, the line of Meneldil, son of Anarion, failed, and the tree withered, and the blood of the Númenorians became mingled with that of lesser men. Then the watch upon the walls of Mordor slept, and dark things crept back to Gorgoroth. And on a time evil things came forth, and they took Minas Ithil, and abode in it, and they made it into a place of dread, and it is called Minas Morgul, the Tower of Sorcery. Then Minas Anor was named anew Minas Tirith, the Tower of God, and these 2 cities were ever at war. But Osgiliath, which lay between, was deserted, and in its ruins shadows walked. So it has been for many lives of men, but the lords of Minas Tirith still fight on, defying our enemies, keeping the passage of the river from Argonath to the sea. And now the part of the tale that I shall tell is drawn to its close. For in the days of Isildur the ruling ring passed out of old knowledge, and the 3 were released from its dominion. But now, in its latter day, they are in peril once more. For to our sorrow, the one has been found. Others shall speak of its finding, for in that I played small part. He ceased, But at once Boromir stood up, tall and proud, before them.
"Give me leave, Master Elrond," said he, "first to say more of Gondor. For verily from the land of Gondor I am come, and it would be well for all to know what passes there. For few, I deem, know of our deeds, and therefore guess little of their peril if we should fail at last. Believe not that in the land of Gondor the blood of Númenor is spent, nor all its pride and dignity forgotten. By our valor the wild folk of the east are still restrained, and the terror of Morgul kept at bay. And thus alone are peace and freedom maintained in the lands behind us, bulwark of the west. But if the passage of the river should be won, what then? Yet that hour maybe is not far away. The nameless enemy has arisen again. Smoke rises once more from a Rodruin that we call Mount Doom.